It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's our goal. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Breaking Bread with Tom Papa. I am Tom Papa. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time. We love having you. And by we, I mean the entire Breaking Bread community. It continues to grow. We continue to share and experience some great food people and funny people, and that's all that life is about. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you tell your friends to subscribe. If you can, leave reviews. That's always good. We've got a good number of reviews, so thank you for that. All good ones. If you have like a 1-star attitude, you can keep it to yourself. And why are you listening? But thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. We have Rachel Feinstein on the program today. So great. One of my favorite people in the world. I was actually the minister in her wedding. I made myself a minister, and I do a bunch of weddings, and Rachel's was one of the best. And we've just become even greater friends since all of that. So we're going to spend some time with her, which is always hilarious, super, super funny. I don't know if she cooks or if she's, I don't know her food background, to tell you the truth. She's kind of a mishmash of people in her family. So let's find it. She doesn't seem like someone who would cook, but maybe. A big thank you to the good people at Helix Sleep. Big shout out. You take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. You find your perfect mattress at helixsleep.com/papa, P-A-P-A. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later as well in the program. But I just wanted to give at the top a little shout out to the good people at Helix, because I got a Helix mattress. And I am telling you right now, my dear friends, and I love that the only people that sponsor this program are things that I've used and things that I will honestly get behind. And sleeping with my wife is not easy. And it's because it's two human beings, and you're in this bed, and someone likes it soft, someone likes it hard, someone gets hot, someone gets cold. Helix, they're saving my life. They are saving my life. They sent us this mattress, and it is amazing because we took this sleep quiz and we put in all the stuff that we know and love and need, and then they shipped us a mattress, and it is literally changing our life. Still doesn't solve the problem if we drink too much and then you start getting up to pee 20 times. They haven't figured that out, but I'm sure they will. Thank you all again for listening. As I said, we're going to have a great time with Rachel coming up. I think I want to start off the podcast today by giving you a little insight into something that I've been doing. And eating and drinking is, one of the greatest loves of my life. And I think that we should start off by letting you know exactly what I've discovered, what I've found, what I've enjoyed, and pass it along to you. Because a lot of times we get into conversations with people and it's always exciting. We learn about them, but we should also be focusing on the stuff that we can do, the stuff that we can enjoy, right? So why not start each of these podcasts off that way? Yes, Tom, that's a great thing to do. I know. Okay, so this is what I did this week. And this is very exciting to share with you, because I like baking bread. I make a lot of sourdough. I've done olive breads and bagels and all this kind of stuff. There is a simple bread that I have not mastered, and it's really because of not spending enough time on it. But also, I've messed it up a lot. Focaccia. It's this Italian flatbread, with all the dimples in it, this crusty kind of top, and then this soft, fluffy inside. A lot of times it'll have, it's an olive oil based dough. Go to an Italian restaurant and it comes in those little squares. That's your focaccia. It is so good. It is worth making. And I know that sometimes the whole sourdough thing can seem big and daunting, and it is. It takes a long time to do it right. Is a a chore at first because you have to learn so much and there's so many steps. This bread, the focaccia bread, this beautiful Italian bread, is easy. It's easy. Uh, but there are so many variations, and people, of course, complicate it and make it a little too fancy. And like I said, I've been messing it up. It was just coming out flat. It was coming out. It just wasn't right. And my family would sit there and try and eat this cardboard thing and tell me it's good, but you can tell, when you make stuff for people, if it hangs around, it's not good. If they gobble it up, you've done it. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to ask how it is. They will tell you by how much of it they eat. And this focaccia went big time. So where did I find the recipe? This is my Bible, my Italian cooking Bible. It's The Essentials of Classic Italian Cooking by Marcela Hazan. I think we talked about this with Jonathan Waxman when he was on the program. He was blown away by her. She has since passed. We talked about her a little bit. She has since passed, but this is worth getting. This is not an endorsement. These people haven't paid. There's no reason to pay. Just go get this book, The Essentials of Classic Italian Cooking, Marcela Hazan. If nothing else, just for basic tomato sauce, mwah. She also, there's so many different things I've tried in here that we will get to eventually with this new segment at the beginning of each podcast. When we do go into Italian stuff, this is what we will talk about. And I know there'll be many times when I will give you something from here. The focaccia from this, you could probably look it up online as well. Maybe we'll even put the recipe up for you. Let me just read it just to get you into the mood. Focaccia. This is in the bread, focaccia, pizza, bread, and other special doughs section of the book. The tomato sauce is in this. Is worth the price of admission. But here we go with focaccia. Before there was an oven, there was bread. It was baked in the hearth where the dough was flattened over a stone slab and covered with hot ashes. From this hearth bread, panis focaccius, focus is Latin for hearth, comes today's soft leavened focaccia, centuries old. Focaccia always starts out with an olive oil enriched salted dough, which may either be baked plain or topped with onion, rosemary, sage, olives, bacon, and other flavorings. Focaccia is most closely associated with Liguria, the Italian Riviera, and with its principal city, Genoa. Salami, Genoa. In many of the cities in the north, in fact, it is not called focaccia at all, but pizza Genovese. Genovese style pizza. In Bologna, however, if you're looking for focaccia, the appropriate word to use is crestina. In Florence, Rome, and few other parts of central Italy, it is schiaccia. Schiacciata. Close, I think. If you ask for focaccia in Bologna or Venice, you will be given a very sweet panettone-like cake. That wouldn't be so bad. Studded with candied fruit and raisins. So there's different terms for this pretty simple bread that's everywhere. I will put it up. It's a very simple dough. All you need is dry yeast. You don't need a sourdough starter. Water, unbleached flour, virgin olive oil, salt. That's it, kids. That is it. And a large baking pan. And you make this simple dough by dissolving the yeast into the lukewarm water. You get that all active. Then you combine the yeast with flour and olive oil. You mix it up. You knead it. You put it on your baking sheet for an hour and watch as this little ball grows. And then you just start stuffing it down into the baking sheet. And this is fun. You just kind of stretch it out. You stretch it out, let it sit for another 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And then the fun part is when it's already risen, it's all proofed, it's ready to go. You come in there with your fingers and you put those little dents in it all across the top of the dough. And then you take this mixture of water, and salt and olive oil. And in my case, it was rosemary. You take a brush and you put all over the top and it fills those little divots. Oh, and because if you're using the right yeast, it's going to rise. That was my big mistake early on. So you have this salty olive oil, rosemary concoction that is all laying in the top of the bread. You put it in for only about 30 minutes, 25 minutes, and it comes out and mwah, magnifique. You just slides right off the baking sheet in one slab. You cut it up and just leave that on the counter. And if you do it right, like I said, your family will devour it. Perfect. The next day, you want to kind of eat it right away, like around room temperature. But then the next day, breakfast, 10 minutes, throw it back in the oven. Mwah, a little scrambled egg on the side. Oh, so good. So look, this isn't a cooking show. I'm not going to lead you through every single step, but I will put a link if I can find maybe she has this online. If not, we will type it up and put it in the bio so you have it. So good. Like I said, get this book, Marcela Hazan, amazing, and Focaccia bread. Mwah. I was very happy. In the middle of this podcast today, I am actually making baked ziti. So there's a sauce on the stove. I'm very concerned about stirring it. I'm going to have to text my daughter because I'll be in the middle of talking to Rachel. And then as soon as it's done, I've got to get over there and assemble the baked ziti. That's a good day. That's a really good day. All right. So Rachel Feinstein, one of the funniest people I know, naturally funny. Her and her husband, Pete, just had a baby. They are good people. She is such a funny comedian. I mean, just naturally funny. The impression she does on stage, I put her in the Live Come to Papa's all the time. She's been on our radio show, What a Joke, a bunch of times. She's just one of my favorite people and favorite comedians. So enjoy Rachel Feinstein. Good to see you, Rachel.
You too. Thank you, Tom.
So funny. You're the first person who thought that this was a podcast discussing Breaking Bad.
Yes. You said it was a Breaking Bad podcast, and I believed you.
Breaking Bread.
Oh, Breaking Bread. Oh, yes. And the dumb thing is, Tom, I've seen the Breaking Bread on your feed all the time. I know you do this. I know you like to cook bread. And I was like, what a random thing that he just thought it'd be fun to trick me and think it was Breaking. Now that makes sense. I didn't connect them. I'm a wild moron.
Ray, it was so funny. It's so funny when you get texts like that from your comedian friends, because it's like, so the whole podcast is talking about Breaking Bad, right? Like, yeah, that's right. Well, what part should I I said, yeah, episode 26. We're going to discuss episode 26. Yeah. And I'm thinking you're just going to laugh, but then you sent a very detailed text back. I have Pete's phone. I don't know how I'm going to watch the episode. Can you give me notes? Is there anything I should know about that episode? I was like, oh no. Rachel really thinks we're going to talk about this canceled television show.
I know, yeah. And it was my fireman husband that pointed out that didn't really make a lot of sense, that you would have like a very specific podcast about a specific episode of a TV show that was canceled a very long time ago.
Yeah, and it really doesn't seem really much like me, does it? Like that.
No, I know about your Breaking Bread thing, and I forgot about it. It's me. I'm the problem here. I'm a hole in the team.
Well, you got a lot going on. This is a very stressful week. It was a lot of chaos, and your life, even when everything on the outside is going all right, your life is chaos.
Yeah, it's a little crazy now.
You've got a beautiful baby. You've got a husband. You're living in New York. They're done.
She has a perfect robe that you guys gave her that she wears every night.
How is that robe?
That robe is so cute and soft, and it says Frankie, her name on it. And not only did I think this was a podcast about Breaking Bad, but I also have not mailed you a thank you note.
We don't need thank you notes.
I stink.
We don't need thank you.
Oh, Tommy.
We have done a lot of big things together, you and I.
Tom married me, which, by the way, my babysitter, huge fan. She's a comedian married to another comedian. She does stand-up. So she was like, wait, this is for a podcast with Tom Papa. She just took the baby for a walk. And she was very impressed because she said that was the best wedding that she's ever been to.
Ooh.
And she was like, he's amazing. I can't believe that's what you're about to do. And you're just casually mentioning it. I'm like, jumping on this Breaking Bad podcast.
I can't talk about it. I've got to watch 3 episodes of season 4 of Breaking Bad.
But you did the funniest, best ceremony for our wedding ever. The firemen loved you so much. It's really hard to please firefighters and comedians. And you did it. It was so funny. It was so
so great. I was so honored that you asked me. And I have to say, I think that's it. I think our relationship has just gone deeper and we're just going to be attached forever now. Yes.
I wish we lived close by because I feel like you're family, and that is not ironic.
The wedding day. Well, actually, let's talk first about the rehearsal dinner. Because we love to talk about food on this podcast, because when we're not talking about Bryan Cranston television shows, we like to talk about food. And it was a really nice, really good rehearsal dinner in Staten Island at this Italian restaurant. Mm-hmm. And I was so happy because I didn't know what to expect, because I didn't know your family's like real backgrounds, like what kind of food are we going to go with, and then to walk in with Italian, it was like, this is going to be a good night.
It was because Amy planned it. Schumer did the rehearsal dinner. So she was my maid of honor, and she asked me like what, and her husband is a chef, and they were like, what dietary things? And I was like, I don't care about anything. I'll slam anything in my face, no questions asked.
Yeah.
So I don't have plans. I wasn't like one of those wedding twats that was like, I want that. I just wanted like a piñata, and that was kind of it. And you to do the ceremony. And they were like, yeah. So they asked me a lot of questions and I had no details. And then her husband planned it, and it was fucking perfect.
It was perfect. And the rehearsal dinner was just, it was nice because it was like that classic Staten Island Italian, and it wasn't like overdone. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was just great food, and it was the perfect amount of people. And someone got up. Was it your brother?
Yes, my younger brother, Aaron.
Oh yeah. He knocked it out of the park. He gave a speech at the rehearsal that just floored everybody. And I started getting nervous because I was like, someone else has got some skills. When they get the mic.
This will make Aaron's life. I'm going to send this podcast when it's out to his social work job, and he's going to watch this. And I mean, like he'll be happy for years that you've just said this. But no, he's really so funny and lovely, my brother. He's like, he's a social worker, but he's hysterical and like dark and kind and lovely. And he just gave like the most thoughtful, satisfying.
It was perfect. Ever. It was perfect. And it was so great too, because your act is always populated with people from your family, and especially your mom. Like your imitation of your mom is just one of the greatest things in comedy. And then to like be sitting across the table from her is always so great. And I know it's like a corny thing, like people like come up to my family and they're like, he says about you in the act. And it's like, part of it's true and part of it's an exaggeration, but I was just, when I met your mom, I was like a fan. I was like, say something inappropriate about other races.
She did text me recently. Barbara Salzman from Beth Israel something or other, Shana something, is going to be at your show tonight. A very ominous text. And then she followed up with, they watched Tom Papa's stand-up program comedy. And thought it was fantastic, as well as the racy jokes he told at the wedding. P.S. They live in the West Village. That's such a classic my mom text. So why does she add the West Village? Because she likes to tell me when people live in Greenwich Village or West Village. She says Greenwich Village a lot. And she likes to mention also something about like she'll be like, did I tell you that gay, lovely Unitarian couple that lives in the Greenwich Village is interested in coming to your comedy program? So she wants, in that sentence, she's accomplished telling me that she has gay friends and she has to say that they're gay in the sentence. Right. And that they must be cool because they live in the Greenwich Village. And she always trying to set me up with people like this. She doesn't realize it's accidentally offensive, that she considers them funky because they're gay. They might not be funky at all.
Right,
but they're kind of funky and offbeat. And they live in the Greenwich Village. So you two would hit it off. And she always says, I love the darkness and the fun of Tom Papa's program during your wedding. And, there were off-color parts, and honestly, those were my favorite.
I don't remember being particularly off-color.
She said you hit it just right, that you said things that were a little exciting and a little racy, and then but you always brought it back to a place of such decency and kindness and poignancy.
Oh, that's nice.
Which she considers off-color is just like, I mean, when you mentioned something about me mocking my parents, she probably thought that was very exciting. Like her heart was racing.
It was getting really, yeah, exactly. It is such a nice thing to be, because it gives me something like, there's nothing more uncomfortable for me as a human being at a wedding than like going to the cocktail thing, or the standing around without the cocktails before the actual service, and you got to stand there and talk to people, and it's
disgusting.
You don't remember anybody's names, and like to actually just be backstage of the wedding and be able to just kind of have a job to do is such a gift. It really was.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
And you were so smooth because the whole thing got blown up minutes before it was about to happen. It started raining. We had this beautiful garden outside in this gorgeous place. And it's like this giant storm came across, and everybody's freaking out. And we're going to have to move it inside. We got to move plants. We got to move everything. And normally, like you would expect like a bride to be just break down in tears. You were just like, yeah, okay, we'll do it inside. Shorter walk.
Because as a comic, I was like, it'll be a better show, right? Because the wedding was kind of a show. I mean, it was just, you went up and you were poignant but also hysterical, and it was fun. Everybody just had fun. Yeah. And so it is a show of sorts.
Yeah, for sure. And outside.
Yeah. And I was like, outside is never a good show. That's why COVID's hard, because we're doing a lot of things and wind is never funny, and just outside things are not funny, and inside shows and experiences are better. So I was like, oh, good. Okay. The only thing I was thinking when it was moved inside was that I was going to get trashed so hard for having a wedding in Staten Island, and just told all night what garbage I was. And the only reason that we had it there was because Pete, of course, had a fireman hookup at Staten Island or whatever. And because they had this big garden. So you see the garden, you forget you're in Staten Island. Right. But then we were moved inside to just a building in Staten Island. So of course, every comic did exactly what I thought they would, which is get up and give toasts and just trash me endlessly. Just what complete trash I was. I think even my dad trashed me. He called it a tropical isle of Staten Island. So everybody just got up and they were like, oh, like very high end, Rachel, Staten Island.
Helix sleep. Okay. All right. As I teased in the beginning of the show, the Helix people, the good people at Helix, personalize your sleep mattress experience. So what you do is you go online and you take this little quiz. It's about, I don't know how long, maybe 2 minutes. You put in all of this stuff. I was like, is this really going to work? Is this really, all right, I'll answer the questions. Do you sleep on your back? Do you sleep on your side? Does your wife sleep on her back or her side? Who likes firm? Who likes soft? And we were pretty different. I don't like it super hard like a ping pong table. My wife likes that. I like it to be a little mushier. She likes it to be a little cooler. I don't get that hot when I'm sleeping. We put in all of this stuff, and the good people at Helix sent back the preferred mattress that we should get. And they sent it, and it came in a box. Literally open it and just poof, this giant mattress explodes into your bedroom. And that right there, to me, I don't know if this is new. I don't know how long people have been doing that. Didn't make sense to me. I'm like, how's a mattress going to come that way? It wasn't light, but it expanded into this mattress, and it's just like they pulled it off of the truck. Insane. Everything that we just took in the quiz was in that mattress. My side is a little softer. Her side is a little more firm. We both laid on it and we're happy. I mean, seems like something that would be risky, right? That you're ordering something that you haven't laid in a showroom for. Well, you know what? There's a pandemic. What do you want to do that for anyway, you big creepo? No, take the test and have it come, and you lay down on it and you will be overjoyed. I'm telling you, there is nothing in the experience that I can speak badly of. I am so excited that it worked out. It would have been weird if it came and I was like, oh geez, I can't do an ad for these folks. I will happily do an ad for these folks because I am sleeping better, more enjoyable. My wife was actually a little hot, and we got this other thing that is a cooling pad. So now she's super happy. We are both happy. You are taking two people who have slept together for 20 years, and it's been a complicated road. And the people at Helix have really nailed it. I want you to go to helixsleep.com/papa. That's Helix, HELIX, sleep.com/papa, PAPA. Take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match the mattress for you. They have a 10-year warranty. You try it for 100 nights, risk-free. If you don't like it, they will pick it up and take it out of your place. How great is that? 100 nights risk-free. I'm telling you, after 100 nights, after 2 nights, you're not going to want to give this thing up. But if it doesn't work out, and maybe you start dating someone new and who knows what it is, the people at Helix have your back. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/papa. So $200 off your mattress. I'm telling you, folks, if it's time for you to switch, if it's time to get a new mattress, this is the way to go. helixsleep.com/papa. Enjoy.
Oh, by the way,
to say, I shit on Staten Island a lot, especially in like the Come to Papa shows, the live shows.
Yeah.
We always do ads against Staten Island and stuff. I, truth be told, have only been there once. And when we were driving, I think I came out with Todd Barry, and they were driving us around. We're like, is Staten Island nice? Like all these beautiful
there are some nice
old
parts
homes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do spend like an irrational amount of time since I married like a fire captain, because like they have all the FDNY dinner dances. They're in Staten Island, and they're always at like some princess hall, something called like Princess something hall or whatever. So there's aspects of Staten Island that I find challenging. But the other reason that I had it in Staten Island was because I texted Amy. Okay, somebody told me about this garden place in Staten Island, and they said it was really nice outside and we should do it there, even though it's Staten Island. And this is 100% true, Tom. Amy, and I never research anything, ever. One person tells me to do something, that's what I do. I like people to hold my shoulders and be like, do that thing. Okay, that's the thing. It means I don't have to look something up. I didn't research a single place. I didn't visit any place. Someone was like, you have it here. Pete was like, I got to hook up there. I talked to some broad. There's a garden. I text Amy. I'm like, Amy will know because she likes good food, good places. I said, there's this place in Staten Island. Somebody says, Pete has a hookup there from the firefighters or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. Amy writes back, this is the best place to have a wedding, hands down. Do it. So I do it. Later, I mentioned this to Amy, and I said, she goes, why are you having a wedding in Staten Island, babe? And I'm like, because you told me it was the best place to have a wedding, hands down. She goes, oh, I was really high. I've never even heard of that place.
Oh, no.
She was like, I had an edible and I've never heard of that place. I was fucking with you. So that was that.
She thought Staten Island was a joke.
She was like, oh no, I think she thought it was like a genuine question, but didn't think I was like seriously considering Staten Island. So she was like, but she writes back, the best place to have a wedding, hands down. This place, not just Staten Island. The place you mentioned is the best place. Everybody loves that place. That's the place. So I'm like, all right, Schumer likes it. It must be very high end.
Yeah, very classy.
They got dough. Her and her husband got dough. So I was like, great, book it. Good. Then later on, she's like, what? No, I don't know where that place is. So I was fucking around. I was very high.
Didn't she do something too during the rehearsal dinner, like, wasn't she gonna like change it or make it like at midnight? Oh no, she wanted to put us in a van. This is such a successful person. Like, whenever you're friends with people that become successful, they have money and they have options and they're invited to cool stuff. So like they just change plans on a whim. Like whenever I would work with Jerry and we would be like going to do a gig, it'd be like, we're going to leave on Thursday. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're leaving Wednesday morning. What? Yeah, we're going to do it. Like if you have a flight as a poor person, you have to keep that flight because they're going to charge you $100 to change it. When you don't have to go to an airline, they can do whatever they want. And Amy, I remember that she wanted us, you texted me, you're like, do you think this is a good idea? Amy wants us to all get in a van and go see Paul McCartney play at the Garden.
And then meet him afterwards.
And then and then go out
but
for
they
something
couldn't
to eat.
fit the entire rehearsal party. So it'd be like half of them, but we'd meet the rest later. And you were like, no, don't do that.
Like, we can't make your mom wait for us as we're going to see Paul McCartney. It's your wedding. No.
I also kind of felt like Paul McCartney wouldn't want to meet me. I don't want Paul McCartney to have to meet me. That's rude of me. There's absolutely no reason that Paul McCartney needs to meet me. Or like an aunt of mine. He doesn't need to meet some rogue aunt of someone's. He's met enough aunts. Let's leave him alone.
And then it's your special time. It's all about you. And now you're waiting in a hallway to meet Paul McCartney like a weird fan. Oh, it would have been a horrible thing. I was that more than giving the marriage ceremony, it was stopping that plan from going. That was my greatest contribution.
You were such a calming, good person because you made decisions for me. You were like, no, we're gonna do the first thing. I was like, okay, good. And then and then we all sat with comics at the place. And Chris, Amy's husband's really good at finding like old restaurants that might not be super popularized, but that like do a cool thing or a family style kind of cooking. And he loves to research these places. And so he found this restaurant. It was so good. And then I was just like, everybody's asking me questions about seating. Again, I don't care. So I was just like, you know what I want to do? I just want to sit with comics all the time. So then I'll know that I'm going to have fun, you know?
Yeah.
So we just sat with comics at our table and ate, and we didn't have to have too many polite conversations. And it was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Once in a while, a stranger would come in. We get to talk to them. And then, you weren't like pinned all alone, just trying to come up with something to say to some stranger.
Which is what you pointed out to me. You're like, we could be with Paul McCartney or we could be with like comics in your family. Like we don't, I'm like, just be sitting around a pleasing table and eating.
Oh, the last minute changes of the rich and powerful. And I get it. I would do it too if I had but the whole world becomes a possibility to you.
Yeah.
So something could pop up at 5:00 and you change it's like, no. Aunt Beatrice has been planning coming to this rehearsal dinner for 6 months. She knows what she's going to wear.
It must be like that all the time with Jerry too. Yeah, I could see that. Like,
any one of them.
And everybody wants to see them all the time too. So it's like they forget sometimes that they might not want to see us. Like, there's a reason that I'm sure Paul would want to hang out with Amy, but why he would want anything to do with me or my dumb rehearsal dinner, obviously couldn't give a shit. And that would be a real nuisance in his life. But we made the right calls and it was like the most satisfying, perfect. But I definitely saw that I was like, you're such a good dad. I can tell because like you just say things in a pleasing, calming way at the times they need to be said. I'm like, this is probably what you do with your daughters. They have a question. They're lost in some moment of their lives. And you say, do this. This is the thing to do. Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah, you don't lose it. You just kind of like, but I have to say this is why you're going to be a great mom. Is because you don't fret about stuff really.
Not too much.
You get like, you'll get distracted or whatever by like, day-to-day minutia kind of like details, like whether we're going to discuss
I'm a bird
Breaking
brain,
Bad
but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a bird brain, but you're not an emotional bird brain.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You kind of let it all just roll.
Yeah, I don't care about much because I'm used to being like right now I have a bunch of Sharpie on my thigh, like just black streaks. And I'm like, I could figure out how I did that, or I could just try to cover it and not question ever how half my leg is covered with black marker. So I feel like people let me off the hook, so I should probably let everybody else.
Do you think because you're calm that you can be married to a fireman?
Yeah, I do think that helps. I mean, he would say that, I don't know that he would call me calm because he doesn't like the fact that I don't have order. He feels like I bring in chaos, but
Right.
I think I have emotional calm, and he has like, he's like regimented like this, but he won't realize that, he has like maybe repressed a lot of like sadness or fear or rage perhaps. Yeah. So, but I do think there's a good balance there,
Yeah.
for sure. And because I don't really worry that much being married to a firefighter. People are always like, how could you? I could never. How could you? But I'm like, because I worry more about like whether somebody's mad at me. That, you know what I mean? Like I worry about that more than like, right. I felt the same way with COVID too. It's like, I don't worry as much about, I don't worry a lot about death. I worry more if like, I just rubbed somebody the wrong way at the CVS. Like I had a strange interaction at CVS.
Right.
Like death or fire. Very real
and you
thing.
went through your whole pregnancy during COVID. That was insane. I remember you were like, yeah, we're going to change hospitals. It's getting weird here in April in Manhattan. It's like, oh my God, you have to go into those hospitals. That's insane.
Yeah. And let me tell you that though, doing COVID with a firefighter, here's the thing about firemen. It's like, okay, yes, I don't freak out, but then occasionally there's a moment that might induce like real anxiety in somebody.
Sure.
But he's used to these moments throughout the day. So I might not have needed, say, a pat on the back during this period where I was living in like the middle of Wuhan, Brooklyn, in that like heart of COVID, as I was like 8 months pregnant. But Pete doesn't understand that because he's a firefighter. So he has the personality of a 911 operator when there's an actual emergency, So like,
right.
I'd be like, oh, this is getting a little dicey. Like it says you can't come into the room with me when I give birth. And he'd be like, yeah, right, be fine. Like, and that would be it,
Right.
And I'm like, can you say something pleasing or just like give me a compliment or tell me I'm doing a good job? But he's the other way. But then he would like flip out about like, he was doing these drills. I think I might have told you in your other podcast. I can't remember if I told you this, but he was doing pack and play drills every day. How quickly can he get a pack and play up and down? Why? I don't fucking know. There's no supply and demand issue for a pack and play being erected and diserected. I made that a word in a certain amount of time, but he's doing military style drills with the pack and play because that's what he does at the firehouse. It just occurred to me now. That's why he does drills all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, and he kept walking around the house in our apartment, be like, we got to be ready. We got to do this. We're going to be, this is real. It's going to happen soon. And I'm like, no fucking shit. How about a hug? Just like, tell me I'm pretty, doing a good job, and things are going to be okay. But instead, you're taking all your, like, obviously, all of his anxiety is funneled through this pack and play, this timed pack and play fucking thing.
Because it's something he can control. He can control. He has order, and he can do it.
Yeah. And then he would just say to me, like, this is crazy. We need things to be organized. I'm like, no, I just like need a hug maybe because this is a little fucked up. So it was interesting that like he's slowly, his way of dealing with that is he would come home in his uniform and I would want to watch serial killer docs and he would want to watch like diaper hacks. And he was getting ready for tummy time. And I'm like, she's not even going to do tummy time until she's 3 months. Let's just make sure we're all alive. Let's just keep us somehow alive through like we're in the eye of the pandemic right now,
It's got to be pretty great though. Like when stuff does get weird, when to have that calm. Yes. I mean, those guys are the most calm. Everybody else is running the other direction, freaking out. Yeah. And those guys are just like looking at it and, all right, we're going to go in there and fix this now. Like that kind of that's a good person to have on your team.
And that's the other side of it is that he does care about all the details, but he's also like highly relaxed. But the only problem with COVID was like, usually we go out, we delegate. I go out and I would talk shit with a bunch of comics and they'll say sweet things to me and we'll talk about the reality of the weirdness of this situation. But in COVID, it was just like me and him doing pack and play drills. And he'd be like, oh, you're crazy, Yeah. But then we had the kid and he was like so excited and it was good. And he's so into being a dad, like all the minutia, the shit I don't care about. Like he's into the diaper bag. He bought an alarm for her diaper that goes on the diaper, that goes off on his phone when she needs her diaper changed. Why? I don't fucking know, Tom. Just look at the diaper. It changes color and it stinks. But he's got an alarm.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, it's not because it shouldn't be a thing because it doesn't need to be a thing. And he's like, it goes right to my phone. Fucking incredible. Beautiful thing.
Does he do the cooking?
He does most of the cooking. I like to cook a lot though, but he does. Yeah, I'm into cooking now. I just got into the last couple of years. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
He cooks. Firemen can all cook in bulk. So he'll come home and cook anything. He can cook everything. But I have like my things I like to make, but he cooks.
What do you like to make?
I like to make I make this ginger, honey, soy salmon thing that he likes.
Say that again.
I put soy sauce and honey and ginger and garlic and olive oil and butter and salmon. And I like to fry salmon on the stove. I like to make it on the stove in a frying pan. And
then you pour that glaze over
it? I marinate it. Yeah.
I marinate it beforehand.
Mm-hmm. I marinate
for how long?
A ginger, honey, soy thing, like an hour or so. I never do it like that much ahead of time, but it's yummy and it's like really soft. So I make that or like a Cajun shrimp dish. And I like to make meat sauce and like saute spinach with this red lentil pasta. So I have like my specific things I like to make, but he can cook anything and he cooks in cast iron. And he always talks to me about like that's the way you cook. And I'm like, fuck off. I just use any no stick pan and like throw it in but he likes to do things in the long way, like respect the, maturation process or some shit. But I like things to be like really tasty and then not think about it after and just throw things.
Right.
How about you?
Right. It's so funny. Because I remember him getting into kombucha because I was doing the bread and he was interested because of the fermentation of the yeast and the sourdough starter and all of that. And he was like, "Have you tried kombucha?"
By the way, he said to me, I think I got Tom into the booch. I was like, no one in the world ever calls it the booch. It's unacceptable. He said it not ironically.
It did. I was interested, but I was like, I can't. My wife is like, I've taken over a quarter of the kitchen with all of my with my living SCOBY. I don't need. She would just. There's no way. She'd be like, I can't. Does he still do it?
He does it a lot. He likes to follow me around the house with like the culture. I was just looking if there was one here now, like the culture that he grows for the kombucha. And he brushes his fireman mustache and he sings to me in Hebrew. He goes, Rachel, Rachel, they call me Rachel. He does this rabbi dance around the house and chases me with the SCOBY. I will say this about him. As much as he's like anal in these certain ways, we have fun every day. Because the thing about firefighters, they don't give a fuck what you say. You can say anything to them and they can say anything to you. So in that sense, as much as he's like on my case about dumb shit, everything is a joke.
Right.
And, you know what I mean? And you could say anything. So he just goes around like an asshole all the time and chases me with this SCOBY.
Did you know? Because that's very comedian-like. Did you know that they were like that? The firemen?
Yeah, they're kind of like comics in the sense that like, we're the real heroes, but no, but in the sense that they don't like to be told what they can and can't say. And they have their own weird language and they say unspeakable shit to each other all the time.
You're right.
And I think I told you this once and I talk about it on stage a lot, but I do it every day. I just communicate everything I really feel to him, like in that British novel voice. And I do that all day. So like today when he was just like ranting at me about, he made this homemade baby food and he was telling me about the process of why it's better or something. It was making me very sleepy. And I was like, she wondered then if he would kiss her before he left to the fire department, but figured he probably wouldn't. It was a loveless marriage, essentially. She sat there looking away and wondered if he might touch her arm. Tell her that he loved her, but he appreciated, and he'll be like, all right, babe, I love you. Forget about the baby food. And then he'll walk out. But so everything is British novels every day. That's the only way I tell him anything now. Because if I looked at him in the eyes and I was like, I feel like this when you do this, he gets very sleepy. Like he doesn't care for listening to a feeling. He's like a bored audience member.
Yeah. It's like when he's telling you about the baby food.
Right. That's a good insight. You're right.
Yeah.
Because, people, when you vent about your spouse and people will be like, oh, have you told him you feel that way? And I'm like, you're assuming he would give a fuck. Like he doesn't deal in feelings. That's not his currency. He's a firefighter. So if I was like, I feel really sad when you say this, or I wish you would he'll just get he'll be like, oh, come on. Like, I'm tired. I'm doing this. But if I say like she knew then, he didn't love her. Like he's a little amused, so that I'm like,
You're
yeah,
right.
I love you, and I get what I want that way.
He doesn't realize that he's really being manipulated, but he thinks it's just a little show you're putting on.
Yeah, but then he'll stop and give me the thing because he's entertained. And they're a lot like comics in that they just want to talk shit all the time, you know?
You're like the street performer who he'll tip because you actually have some skills.
Yeah, that's exactly true. But if I ever say to him, and I like at night, if I'm like, I've been thinking about this thing, he goes, oh, come on. Like with that level of annoyance, it's like, I don't want to listen to your feelings. Come on, you don't want to like that crap, you know? But if I British novel it, he'll do it. He'll actually do the thing being asked of him.
That's amazing. Did your mom teach you how to cook? Was there always cooking in the house?
She always cooked. My mom cooked a lot, but not really. No, I never was into cooking until just like the last couple of years.
Right.
I felt like it was like part of my identity. I'm like, I don't cook. That's just something I don't do. And I dated this guy that was like, family was really appalled by it. And that just made me even more not want to do it, you know?
They were like, you can't marry this woman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's not going to provide for you.
He's like a Russian Jewish guy. And I remember his family once was like, and she doesn't cook. And he comes home and there's nothing in the cupboard. It's nothing. He comes home, there's nothing there. Like they were just horrified. How can he live with this cold refrigerator wench? Like basically it was how they saw me. And then he comes home after a long day and there's nothing there. So what are you going to do? He doesn't want to do for him. And
why would you be with a woman if she's not feeding you?
If she's not feeding you, this disgusting pig. And I'm like, well, can I just order something? And this was also like, you know, when you're starting stand-up and for a while, it just has to be all you're doing if you want to actually make money at it. So I was on the road every single weekend that year after Last Comic Standing. I was like, it was like unpack, repack. And then I just get there to these furious Russians that were just like, just not cooking, it's not good, you know? And he definitely judged me for it in this way that made me more defiant. Like, I don't do that, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and then like, I remember we had a fight once, we were arguing about something and he goes, you know, a hot meal once in a while would be fucking nice. And I was just like, oh. I told DeRosa that as a comedian. And I was like, and now he always says that to me. He's like, you know, a hot meal every once in a while would be fucking nice. But yeah.
Oh, that's brutal. That's a culture war. Actually, that's like, there's no way, because he really feels that deeply. When you weren't around, he was being fed that from his family.
Oh yeah.
And thank God you got away, because that would have been that's so deep. There's no changing that.
Yeah.
He could have been a nice guy, whatever, but he would have carried that to the end of his days.
Oh yeah, and he needed that. Like he needed to go find that, and I wasn't that, and that was that.
he needed mommy.
Yeah,
and he's with a touring comedian.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know what you want, but it totally bothered me. Like, and as much as I now can see how hysterical it all was, and the discussion about how I was neglecting and basically I think they felt not just neglecting, but I think they saw it as a sort of active abuse that I wasn't. I was like, that pushed me even farther away from it, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember those years after I went back on the road and I was just like, well, maybe I'm just not meant to be with somebody, because I would look at those men on their date nights with their wives, the kind of women that like hold on to the back of their men's belt loops. And I'm just like, that's what he wanted. And I'm just this raunchy clown, this road fucking whore, just this road whore. And nobody wants a suitcased, rancid road woman. So just deal with it. You're not what they want. It's one or the other. Like I was just it fucked with me for a while. And
I could see that.
And I kind of feel jealous of those ladies on those date nights, like those couples. And I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just feel like that and only want to do that? Like my hubby and, you know.
It's like that SNL sketch. My guys.
I know. And I only talk like that as a joke. Like I follow Pete around the park and I'm like, babe, taco night, babe. And I'll say it to somebody that's not him. It'll just be like some old Asian man spitting like in the park. And I'll be like, babe, we got a taco, babe. But at the end of the day, I'm not that, you know. And I had this little quote that made me feel better after I was dumped by the Russians. It was just like, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Good quote, Ernest Hemingway quote. So I was like,
nice. That is a good one. And it's cool that you kind of found your thing, and you found this cool relationship, and then all of a sudden you're marinating salmon. It's like that poor Russian bastard. If he had just done it the right way and hadn't demanded it.
Boatload of salmon for him. Yeah, I love a good marinade. I get when I get depressed or sad about other things, I just look up marinades. It's very pleasing. So I now with Pete, he doesn't expect, strangely enough, this Brooklyn firefighter does not expect me to cook or change my name or all the things you think he gave a shit about. Doesn't care about anything like that. He likes to cook. He's very domestic. So that kind of got me having more natural joy in that, because I didn't feel like I was expected or judged for not cooking. So.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't demanded. It wasn't like.
Yeah. When did you get into cooking? Like, were you always really into it?
Yeah, I always liked it. You know, my Italian family was always, my mother was a great cook. My grandmother was a great cook. So I was always around it. There's always parties being planned. They always had people over. So I was always kind of into it. But of course you don't do it until you're, older, because you go from being fed by your family and then being out in the world with no money or no pots or no living in an apartment with no kitchen. And it takes a while before you can actually, start doing it on your own. But I think all of that, like, you kept it even when you were making like bad stuff, or not bad stuff, just like simple poor people stuff. It was like still had like a sense of what you were doing.
And did your mom like love through cooking? Did she give like affection, like with food and stuff? Was she physically affectionate as well? That's a cocktail of questions. Start with any. I'm curious.
Yeah, I would say we're not very touchy feely.
Mm-hmm.
I would say food is definitely a uniter. I mean, definitely. That's how we experience everything. It was it's to this day. It's like we'll be finishing breakfast.
You go in the house and they feed you?
Yes, and you're finishing breakfast if we stay with them, and they're talking about what are we going to have for dinner. Like, it's like it's always get to the next thing and share, and that is that's the thing that fills the silence in uncomfortable conversations, where uncomfortable conversations would be. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it works.
It's a good one. It's better than talking about like what you're gonna buy or something. At least food is like real and satisfying, than like what you're gonna purchase or something. Some people talk about purchases or gloves or something,
Right, exactly. I mean, we're recording this now on Sunday, and this is the day that I really cook, and that comes all from Sundays being like the family day thing. And even if they don't want it, like, everyone's like, we ate so much during the week because it was such a stressful week that we were just eating everything. And I know nobody needs a meal today, but it's Sunday. So I'm making this big bake scene.
But that's so great, because you're going to give your kids all these like traditions and things that remind them of home and like that are pleasing and calming. That's nice.
Yeah. And then we'll switch it on them. And we'll be like, this husband doesn't feed you. He doesn't cook for you.
You and Cynthia cook, or do you cook more than Cynthia?
I do more of it.
You do more of it. Yeah. And you always did? And you always enjoyed it more. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's a vegetarian. She doesn't really enjoy food so much.
Fascinating.
I love going to the grocery store and thinking about what's next and what you're going to get. And like, I enjoy going. It's not a chore.
Yes.
She sees going to the grocery store as like hell. That's like flossing.
That's what Pete loves to go to the grocery store too and talk about we took that test, like the languages of love, and we figured out that he wants love through shared activities, mainly Costco or the grocery store. He wants me to talk to him about it and go with him. Yeah, he could give a shit about a compliment. That's why he doesn't give them. I could be like, oh, you look hot, you look handsome, you this, blah, blah. He does not care, doesn't need it, wants me to talk about Costco with him. So now whenever I want to butter him up.
How did you figure this out?
We took that test, the languages of love. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
You have to take it. It's so good, Tom. And I'm not into usually corny shit like this, but it makes so much sense. Basically, the principles are you give love the way that you would receive it, right? That you want it. We all do this. And therefore that most problems, most sources of strife and conflict in relationships are because she's not doing that. Well, then she doesn't really care, right? Like,
right.
So for Pete, he's like, she leaves water all over the floor every time she takes a shower. Like, she doesn't care, you know? Why would she do that? And meanwhile, it's like, I don't give a fuck if there's water on the floor when he takes a shower. So why would I care? You know?
Right.
She doesn't care because she's not doing that. And that's where we're wrong, where we kind of fuck up, is we interpret what we would care about, right?
Right.
So to him, he cares if I go to the grocery store with him and if I talk to him about the groceries. This whole time, I'm like, I don't give a shit, you know, like just get something, whatever. But then I realized, like, oh, if I talk to him about the groceries, then he'll be nicer to me and more likely to be like, oh, you know, you look nice or whatever, or something.
And then what do you, and what's your thing?
Mine would be, there's 5 languages, right? Words of affirmation. And then we're all like ranked, right? In terms of which is most important. My number 1 is words of affirmation. Just like, say some nice shit to me. Like, you could get away with unbelievable shit if you just say one kind thing. Notice I do something well.
Right.
Because I've been in trouble my whole life and I've always felt like a fuck up. So I apologize. So if you just say one nice thing, you get away with anything.
Wow,
you know?
this is brilliant.
That's my number 1. Yeah. And then physical touch. So I'm like physically affectionate. So is he. Our number 2, this is the same. So that's good. But his number 1 would be acts of service. I mean, I'm sorry. Our number 3 is the same, which is physical touch. But his number 1 is acts of service. Like, do handle this for me. You know, like mail this, like, you know, and that's what he does. And like, he like addresses something and just mails it like a bill. It's fascinating, you know? And so he just feels like if I don't do that, it's because I don't care about him. You know what I mean? Like if I don't stamp and mail a bill. So that's his number 1. And his second one is shared activities. I don't like activities. I just want to lay still and snack in the dark, you know? He likes activities. Yeah.
Yeah. So does Cynthia.
She likes activities too.
Oh, when we check into a hotel, if she sees like a bike rental or a kayak.
See, that just sent me into a low-grade depression.
It's tough.
He loves a bike rental.
A bike rental or a kayak or one of those pedal boats that's just like waiting for some guests at the ocean's edge. Yeah, she's all in.
But then it's good, I guess, to have one of us and one of them, because then I do the thing and then we'll get a bit about it, you know?
Right, right. So how do you figure out this language of love? You have to take a test?
You take this test and it's online. It's written by a psychologist and you just kind of figure out what your language is and then you try to speak to the person more in that, you know, and how they would want to be speak to. Yeah. So
you're saying it's worth it? It doesn't. I feel like Pete. What are you telling me that for?
Well, actually, I do his, so he's delighted, but he doesn't really do mine that much. So in that sense, like, you know, it helps to some degree. It helps me not interpret something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I can laugh it off more. Yeah, so I found it kind of helpful, but I actually did it. I was like, oh, he wants that, then I'll do that. You know, so I did it a little more than he did, but I think it did help me understand him, if nothing else. Like,
yeah, because a lot of times you misinterpret things, you don't even realize. You're like, oh, why'd they leave all this stuff in the sink? They just don't care. It's
they don't care about. They're inconsiderate.
They're not thinking about that. This has nothing to do with you, actually.
Yeah, and we all do that, right?
Yeah, completely. Well, when can I come to New York? When can we actually sit in a restaurant together?
Oh my God, I'm around. Like, I'm just around. Are you coming to New York? I'm going to Virginia in a few weeks to do I've been doing a little bit of the road, but for most part, we're here. We're the people that did not leave because he's FDNY. So we're just like in New York and hanging out. That's good though. I've been gone for a bit now, but when there's a tragedy like this, when there's some big issue, it's like, that's when I really miss it. It's like, oh, I should be there. I shouldn't be in this other spot. I should be riding it out in New York. I know you do need to be here. We all miss you and talk about you a lot. And when Keith was wearing your hat the other night, trying to pretend he was you, it wasn't the same. It's not the same as when Tommy comes in with this Tommy hat. We all fuck around and have some fun at the cellar and you do your holiday show or whatever. We all need to just have some semblance of a dinner in whatever way we're not allowed to. I know. All right. We'll do it soon. Is it worth dying for? Absolutely. I think probably. Yeah. Some fun with friends and some food. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good seeing you. Thanks for coming on the show. Thank you. It was so fun. I had the best time. It's time for Breaking Bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's
it's how it goes. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show. Hey.